Have you ever wondered what really happens in those final seconds before the stage lights explode? Welcome to Taekook Daily. Today we're not just talking about a performance, we're stepping into a quiet moment that many people almost missed, yet somehow couldn't forget. Because sometimes the most meaningful things don't happen under bright lights, but in the silence right before everything begins. Backstage that night was full of movement and pressure. Staff were rushing, voices overlapped, and every detail was being prepared for a flawless performance. It was the kind of organized chaos that always comes before a big stage. Everything should have been focused on timing, positions, and execution. But in the middle of all that intensity, there was a small moment that felt completely different, calmer, heavier, almost disconnected from everything else. Kim Taehyung stood quietly in one corner. It wasn't just a normal pause before going on stage. There was something about his stillness that stood out. His posture was steady, but his expression felt distant, as if his mind was somewhere else for a brief moment. It wasn't dramatic or obvious, but it was enough to create a contrast with the fast-moving environment around him. Then Jungkook entered the frame. What made this moment noticeable wasn't just his presence, but the way he reacted. Instead of scanning the room or focusing on preparation like everyone else, his attention seemed to go directly toward Taehyung. It didn't feel rushed or accidental. It felt focused, as if something had quietly drawn his attention in that direction. He approached slowly without urgency. There were no words exchanged, no visible gestures meant for others to notice. But the atmosphere between them changed. Jungkook's expression softened slightly, shifting from the usual stage-ready focus into something more attentive and grounded. It was a subtle change, but one that many viewers later found meaningful when they looked back at the moment. Taehyung, who had been standing still, eventually lifted his gaze. The timing of that small movement stood out to many people. It created the impression that there was a silent acknowledgement between them. No one could hear anything and nothing was clearly stated, but the eye contact itself carried a sense of understanding that didn't need explanation. What followed was even more subtle. Jungkook made a small movement forward, almost as if he was checking in without wanting to interrupt. It wasn't something staged or exaggerated. It felt natural, quiet, and controlled. Moments like this are easy to overlook in real time, but when revisited, they often carry a different kind of emotional weight. Shortly after, Jungkook briefly reached out and made a light, almost unnoticeable contact with Taehyung's arm. It wasn't dramatic and it didn't draw attention in the moment, but it became one of the details that people discussed the most afterward. Because right after that, Taehyung's expression appeared to shift slightly. His shoulders relaxed, and his face seemed a bit lighter than before. Of course, moments like these can be interpreted in many different ways. Some see it as simple awareness between close teammates. Others view it as a quiet form of support in a high-pressure situation. And some believe it reflects a deeper level of understanding that comes from years of working closely together. There is no single confirmed explanation, and that's what makes it so intriguing. Soon after, they both moved toward the stage entrance. Their positions were natural, not overly close, but not distant either. The performance began, and as expected, everything looked polished and powerful. The energy shifted instantly into what the world recognizes: precision, charisma, and professionalism at the highest level. But for those who noticed the moment before it all began, the performance carried an added layer of meaning. Small glances, subtle timing, and natural synchronization stood out more than usual. Not because they were out of place, but because they felt connected to something that had already happened just seconds earlier. In the end, what we saw may have been a very simple interaction, or it may have been something more meaningful that only those involved truly understand. Without direct confirmation, everything remains open to interpretation. But perhaps that's exactly why moments like this stay with people. They invite us to observe more closely, to think more deeply, and to appreciate the human side behind the performance. So the real question isn't just what happened in that moment. It's why such a quiet interaction managed to leave such a lasting impression. And maybe sometimes the answer isn't something we need to hear out loud, but something we simply feel.